parts, like your bearings in your hub, or your bearings on your headset, at your handlebars. And those bearings need grease. They need like bearing grease. And what happens is when you hose off your bike with the hose water, it takes a big chunk of grease off of it. Now, if you had a more expensive bike that had like bearings that were sealed and self-contained, you might not have to worry so much. So, we're at the point of adding grease to your chain, and this is what I use. So this is Bike Chain Pacific oil, and there's different types. So depending on what season it is, like they do have different types of oil for summer versus winter. The winter oil, if you are a seasonal rider, it'll be more thicker, so it will repel more moisture off of the chain, because the humidity in the winter is going to be higher, and then you need the extra help to keep your chain lubricated. And this one is mainly for the summer, and it's a lighter type of oil that it repels more dirt off your dry system. Now, again, what you would do, how to apply your chain oil is you mainly do something like this, and you can take your other hand and turn your crank around with your hand like that, and keep the still as the oil applies itself. Now, again, my method is basically keeping everything still. I'm moving the ball over the chain myself. I'm doing basically the same thing, but if you turn the crank as you're doing it, you're gonna apply the oil faster. So again, if you're one-handed, this is probably what you would have to do to apply your oil. And they say that to make your chain last the longest, that you should apply oil to your chain at least once a month. Again, that would depend on how much you ride. As you can see, as I'm applying, that some of the oil is dripping down. So what we're gonna do is take a rag, and we're gonna like lightly wrap the rag around the chain, and do the same thing. Make the chain or the crank move around, and we're gonna get the excess grease off of it, because obviously when you get on the bike and ride, you don't want the excess grease and oil to slosh around and even get your outfit wherever. That's not what we always want to do. So we tend to try to get the excess off the chain, but just keep enough on it that it can, function. And what we can do at this point as well is take that same grease and put it on your pivot points on your rear derailleur. So that keeps everything that needs to be moved, moving, lubricated around your derailleur. And we can also put some on your jockey wheels as well. most jockey wheels don't have, they're not, to make a move, they don't have, some of them have steel bearings inside here, most of them don't, because, they easily can spin freely, but, by putting the grease on your jockey wheels, it cuts down on wear and tear because these are plastic, so, and like the bolts that go in the center of them are steel or aluminum, so they kind of wear out in time. So just to keep everything moving and lubricated, it just helps, I think. So again, you dab off your extra oil off the pivots, that you don't need. And then at this point, we are going to a good entry bike or expensive bike. Your gears are going to be mounted on the hub. It's called like like the older style of rims have it's a freewheel system that is built into your gears that makes it coast. Sometimes you hear that tick as your bike coasts. That is the freewheel inside here. Like I said, different bikes have different styles, either one or two different styles of freewheel systems. This one, you can take apart each gear off the hub, and there's a locking nut that you don't see. It's behind the frame here. If you take off your back ram, you'll see it, but sometimes that comes loose, and your whole gear cassette is gonna be able to move, but it's not supposed to. So, and if that moves around, then it puts everything out of alignment, so your chain cannot shift properly from gear to gear. So, I know there's a lot to take in, but once you get the habit of checking things, especially and you don't have to do this every time you ride the bike. Basically you look it over when you first take it out for the season, and you can go like this. Although play is not bad, but when you have so much play that you can obviously hear, like the cassette, like conking around or making big noise, that is a good indication that your gears are really getting loose, and it's not good for the bike. And at that point, you just take it into your local bike shop and have them tighten up that locking nut. And that has to be that locking nut has a specific torque spec on it. It's not like you can always tighten up yourself, because it takes a special tool that slides in there, and that slides in there like a puzzle, and that you would use to torque it down. So at this point, we got our chain greased, which is good. We got our deviator cleaned up and oiled. That's good. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna switch gears on the shifter, and to do that, just these type of gears, the external gears, sorry, they like to be under load when you change the gears, meaning that, say when you ride the bike and you're pedaling the bike like this, you need to be pedaling as you're shifting. If you don't do that, if you coast and then pedal and without before you say you're coasting and you shift on the shifter, what you're doing is you're binding up the chain. You could be doing some damage, but it's designed to be it's designed to shift as you pedal. In my case, again, with my one hand, it's kind of hard to shift and pedal at the same time. But what I try to do is I try to get some momentum going, so it's not gonna be as bad for the system. So like, you know, so I'm gonna go up and shift into right now. It's in its last gear, so I'm gonna shift it once up. So what you're looking for is you're looking for the chain to react and the deviator to react quick. And right now, it's not. And that is because of this has been in storage for over the winter, and the cable has started to stretch. So at this point, you go on at your belt adjuster. You can turn it outwards. The best way is a half turn, and then go back and see. The best way to do this is pedal. You should pedal the bike like this and do this at the same time. And that is the best way. And as you can see, on the way I'm turning it, it doesn't want to turn it well. You can also put a little bit of oil inside here, so it gives the threads a little bit of lubrication. Now I just turned it a slight half turn, and you saw the chain go on the next gear, so, and that's good. What I do at this point is shift it back to your last gear. What you're gonna do now is see how fast the chain went back to its last gear. You want to see that like that. See how fast it shifted towards the first gear, and that's what you want to see. You want to see, again, you might have that issue where certain gears are more worn out than the other gears, so your chain is gonna do that. I mean, to help, what do you do when your teeth of your cassette or your crank wears out? Well, at that point, the bike shop is gonna suggest that you replace your cassette, maybe your jockey wheels if they're getting to be worn out, and your teeth on your crank. And if it's a good crank, if it's a high-end crank, then you don't have to replace your whole crank, just the teeth. in this case, we are trying to adjust this to find a happy medium so your chain could shift as efficiently as possible. And to remember, as you're doing this, you can adjust it too far. You can, you know, so now it's cheap. It won't. What do you do at this point? So, I mean, you can't just crank on your adjuster until this changes gear, because at a certain point, you're gonna be facing that your derailleur is already trying to be in line with the gear above it. And you don't want that. You kind of want it to you kind of want this part of the derailleur to be in line with the gear that you're trying to select. And that is and that does sound hard, and sometimes it is. So what you see now is the chain wanting to go back and forth in between gears, and that's not good either. So it's all about fine adjustments on your derailleur. Again, you could add a little bit of grease to your barrel adjuster to help you lube it up. But you know, it's really hard to stay patient with it. And this is not for everybody, really. And this is why you would have a bike shop adjusting it for you. And two, a good thing to remember is if you're trying to change the gears back here toward your first gear, and you're in the front, you're on the biggest wing in the front. The drive system is not meant to do that. At this point, we cleaned up the chain. We oiled it. We discussed what all of the adjustments are for. We are going to, at this point, run the gears up and down to last gear to first gear. And what we're looking for is each time we change the gears, we're looking for the gears to be snappy, especially if you crank the sprocket fast. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the second you change gears on the shifter, you should see the the snappiness of the chain and the derailleur wanting to shift that quickly. If it has any sluggish, if it's sluggish, if it's kind of if it's trying to shift but not quite, and the chain is kind of skipping and not going into the next gear, you might want to adjust this. But the thing is, you shouldn't have to adjust this too far. You can adjust this too far, even if you adjust it to where it'll go into next gear. Remember, each time you're adjusting this, the cable gets tighter, and then when you're trying to shift back to your last gear, it's not going to want to do that because the cable is so tight that it's not going to allow the derailleur to push the chain back. So be aware of that. And two, when you're trying to shift gears, shift gears as if you're on the bike. Shift gears as if you're like on a bike ride. Like normally you don't, when you're shifting gears, you don't just shift gears and let go of the shifter all the time. You always, some people keep slight pressure on the shifter, so keep that in mind too. Like, and that might help because you have to think about with most older bikes or bikes that get ridden, the parts get worn out. Like for example, all the shifter, the parts inside the shifter are plastic, so the plastic is going to wear out in time. It's not going to be quite as exact anymore. So sometimes you need to apply a bit of pressure on the shifter until you know that the bike changes gears to help it kind of get back in alignment. So things to remember. It sounds complicated. It sounds like, oh, I need to remember this, but if you might be already doing it as you ride already. So, but it doesn't mean it's a bad part. It just means the bike has been used a lot, and that's a good thing. You want to see that. You want to see the bike, ridden a lot, and when you're adjusting things and working on the bikes, you have to, in your head, kind of have to mimic the same conditions that when the bike's being used. And when you shift your gears, do you leave your thumb on the shifter just a little bit longer when you shift gears, or leave pressure on the shifter until you know the gears are being shifted. Remember things like that, and and you might be able to tune your gears correctly better that way. Because if this was a brand new bike out of the box, and you shift when you shift gears on the shifter and let go, and ideally the gear should be able to shift quickly. But in this case, after the bike has been ridden more than a couple years, the components start to wear out, like I said, especially in the shifter, and you kind of have to, after a while, you know how your bike's getting worn out, and you may find yourself uh, adding a little bit more pressure on your derailleurs or on your shifters to help the shifting process along. So that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean your bike's getting worse. It's just you're learning your bike's ticks, and that's what happens. So now we're gonna I'm gonna show you with all these things that we talked about, like how it should look like when you do shift the bike. You don't always have this point of view either. You're usually on the bike, on the road. You don't see what your gears are doing. So let's go through the gears and get a better point of view on what this is doing as a system. So right now you do hear a little bit of chatter in the back derailleur, and that's as long as the chain is not being bounced around and trying to skip gear to gear. It's not that's not a bad thing. See, what you want to see is that you want to see kind of a snappiness to it, and that's good. So again, when I shifted, I kept my thumb on the shifter just enough so it would help it get into alignment with the next gear. Once you let go, as long as the chain is not trying to bounce back into the gear prior, that's what you want to see. So I can pedal backwards, and the chain's still not wanting to bounce that gear. And you're always gonna have some type of chatter going too. You just don't want loud chatter. You don't want to hear the chain skipping or anything like that. So again, we have a quick reaction, and that's what we want to see. Now we are going into gear number 4. Now, like I said before, what is happening at this point is the chain in relation to the front, wherever you have the front gear on, it's kind of causing the chain to get out of alignment, like out of a straight line. So as you're working yourself up into gears, do keep in mind that the chain doesn't want to, the chain wants to stay in a straight line as possible. So at this point, what I would do is, if I was on the bike riding, I would change it to my smallest gear in the front, and then you're putting the chain back in alignment, and that way it's going to work back here, as efficiently as possible. So Now that we did that, go up another gear. And again, if I should be pedaling a lot quicker under normal pedaling circumstances, and that's why I should be doing that. I'm still trying to do the motion of it being under load. So again, we're going from third to second gear. It goes, if I was pedaling a lot faster under normal speeds, you should again see snappiness going in the gear quick. Now we're going into first gear, and it goes straight in, and that's what you want to see. And now after we see that, now we can go back down to last gear. And again, you don't need to apply pressure on the shifter at this point. It should already be aligned to where it can do it on its own without extra pressure. You see how quick and snappy it does it? That's what you want to see. Now that we're in fourth gear, you might want to start to think about putting the gear in the front, in the middle, so you're trying to keep, again, that straight line going with the chain. Again, if you have a newer bike and one gear in the front and all your gears in the back, you don't have to worry about this issue at all. So and again, like I said, certain gears that you're in are gonna make noise more than the other gears, and that's just because those gears are more worn out than the others, and those gears that you prefer to use the most. That's not a bad thing. So again, we've gone through all the gears. They're pretty snappy as that they can be. I wish I can pedal a little bit faster so I can put it more under load, but I'm doing the best that I can do. And the rear derailleur seems to be working well. Again, you're gonna hear, chatter from the derailleur. Sometimes you're gonna, as long as you don't see the chain skipping gears, even though you're trying to say go from fifth gear to fourth gear, and the chain kind of makes that tick sound, and clearly it's not doing it. That's the issue. Even after you apply pressure on the shifter, on the thumb, trying to shift it up, and it still doesn't. It's very much out of alignment, and you're gonna have to adjust your cable accordingly. So, I hope that this was good information, and however, I did not talk about the front derailleur in this video much, besides talking about keeping the chain in a straight line. I will be making a secondary video for the front derailleur if you have a bike that has one. Like I said before, not if you have a newer bike of like a perhaps 20, 22, 23 bike, you're not going to have 3 gears in the front. You're going to have all the gears in the back. So stuff to consider. That doesn't mean these style of bikes aren't bad or good. It's just it's just more to consider. But hopefully with these videos, I can get you updated on how to adjust the older bikes and keep them running well. So with that said, thank you for sticking around, and if you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button, and until the next time, bye for now.